Hey guys, so today we're checking out the Eibach 1-inch Pro Truck Rear Lift Blocks, fitting all 2005 and newer 6-lug Toyota Tacomas. So this is going to be a great product to take a look into if you're looking for one of the easiest and most affordable ways to gain a little bit of extra ground clearance as well as some extra towing benefits for your Tacoma. Now this option by Eibach is going to do a good job at opening some room inside that rear wheel well, giving you some extra space to work with, whether you take your truck off-road or even take it on some standard fire trails. Now one of the other big benefits to a set of lift blocks like this, especially this Eibach one, is that it's going to add a little bit of rake to your Tacoma, perfect if you're looking to carry any heavier loads in the back or do any towing. So when you do have that heavy load in the back of your truck, this is going to essentially level it out. Not only is it going to have the ground clearance and towing benefits or heavy load benefits, but this is also great for somebody who's just really looking to fine-tune their suspension and fine-tune their Tacoma. So even if you already have a suspension system on your truck already and you're looking for a little bit of extra room in the rear, whether that's to create a certain aesthetic of stance or even just to level things out, then this is going to be a great choice. Now these do have a high quality construction. These both are made of a billet aluminum material that will hold up for a very long period of time, especially because that black anodized finish that is on top. Not to mention you're getting all the hardware that you need in order to install these and accommodating U-bolts that are longer and again will accommodate for that extra 1 inch of lift that you're getting with these rear lift blocks. And with all that being said, these again are going to be very affordable. For this set, you're looking at about $100, and in comparison to some other solutions for gaining some extra ground clearance and towing benefits for the back of your truck, this is going to be definitely one of the most affordable ones. Now, in comparison to some other options for lift blocks, this is going to be an aluminum construction. Some of their choices may be made of some different materials, including cast iron as well as steel. So if you do have a preference for aluminum, this is going to be one of your best options. Not to mention, this is just going to come with the lift blocks and the hardware. So if you are looking to fine tune your truck, this is going to be a good setup because some other options will come with spacers for the front, or they may come with a couple of extra different components. So again, if you're not looking to do all of that, you're looking just for that extra rake or that extra 1 inch of lift in the back of your Tacoma at a very affordable price point, then this is going to be right up your alley. As far as install goes, I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. You are gonna need a couple of pretty basic hand tools and probably about 2 hours worth of your time. So speaking of that install, let me walk you through it right now. Tools that I used for my install were a dead blow, a 17mm wrench, a punch, an impact wrench, a 17mm shallow socket, a 19mm, and a 22mm deep socket. So our first step to the install is getting our truck up in the air. I am obviously on a lift here, but if you're at home and using a jack and jack stands, that is absolutely fine. Now you're also going to want to take both rear wheels off to give yourself some more room to work with, and you're also going to want to support your axle. So I have a couple of support systems here. I'm using 2 pull jacks on the axle itself to help us lower and raise the axle to get the lift blocks in. And then I also have a 3rd jack in the back on the pinion. This is going to make sure that the caster is staying the same and we don't have to manually roll the axle when we do lower and raise the axle. So our first step after all of that is finished is to disconnect the bolt on our shock. So it's just going to be this lower bolt here, and I'm going to use a 17mm socket and a 17mm wrench to remove that. You may need to give a little pressure on the axle to free up that bolt. And we can actually lightly tap this out with a dead blow. So I'm just going to use a small punch to help the bolt go through. Right? And then we can repeat that on the other side. So what we can do now is remove the hardware on the U-bolts here. There's going to be 2 nuts on either U-bolt. I'm going to use a 19mm socket to go ahead and remove those. and just work on this last one back here. Now this bracket is going to drop down, and there's really no specific way or orientation that it's going to be placed when we reinstall this, but I'm just going to put this to the side, and we can remove that second U-bolt. So our next step is to start to lower our axle down, because we do need to fit our 1-inch block in between the leaf spring and the axle. So I'm just going to start to lower, just keeping an eye on everything else. So once we have the axle lowered enough to where our leaf spring is off and we can fit our lift block in, we want to make sure that the hole is up at the top and the notch is down at the bottom. And this is actually going to fit inside our axle here. There is a cutout for it. All right, so it's going to sit on the axle just like that. And then we can go ahead and raise it back up. We may need to do a little bit with the suspension, with raising it and lowering it, just to get that notch on the leaf spring to line up with our spacer. So this is where the caster comes into play. You can kind of adjust that third jack and roll the axle just to line everything up. And then it should be sitting pretty flush. So we can do the same thing on the other side, and then we can install our U-bolts in our brackets. Start to roll the axle back to where it was. Put some pressure on those blocks. What we can do now is take our provided U-bolts and put them into place before we attach our bracket. One in the front and one in the rear. There is a top bracket on the leaf spring itself. You want to make sure that they're sitting in that groove. Then we can take our factory bracket, lining that up. Placing it up against the axle. Then we can start to secure it down with the supplied hardware. Making sure that everything is seated in the correct spot, I'm going to tighten up those 4 nuts with a 22mm socket. And we want to make sure, because this is a U-bolt, that we're tightening them down evenly on either side. Sometimes you will have to squeeze the U-bolt just to kind of get it to seat and not damage the threads. Last but not least, we can re-secure our shocks. Now you may have to, again, lift up on the axle and kind of tinker with the height in order to get these installed. Just going to secure it down with the factory hardware and then tighten it up with the 17mm socket and wrench. Then we can repeat that process for the other side. So that's gonna wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe, and for more videos and products like this, always keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.